Actually, I have a long story. It has been almost 30 years that I have been going through torture and everything by the Rwandan government. Because of what I did in 1994, when I happened to help 1,268 people to survive the Rwandan genocide in 1994, in a hotel where I was a general manager, and nobody just happened to get out alive. No one was beaten, no one was taken out, no one was killed. So that became a problem. Because I became popular, and all the journalists who were coming to Rwanda were always willing to talk to me before they talked to anyone else, including President Kagame himself. So at a given time, on September 5th, 1996, I was seated in my home, close to the Kigali Serena Hotel, which used to be the Diplomat Hotel. Today it is the Serena Hotel. I was a general manager there. And I saw a soldier who just came to my home. Now, he said that I had stolen computers from I do not know where, and I had to show him my house. He wanted just me to stand up so that he can shoot me standing up. In my name, I had two visitors. I was very proud to stand up and show him my home. When I stood up, I told him, okay, come, I show you my house. When I was just almost standing, going in front of him, he just pulled out a gun, and our housemaid now shouted and told me that he is going to kill you, Papa Fiston, he's going to kill you, Papa Fiston. I pushed him I was still young. I just pushed him very roughly. He fell down, and I just went out, just calling for help. We were just staying at that hotel. It was very close to a military camp, the main military camp of Rwanda. Then the army guys came to my home and started saying, and now they started telling me, oh, that guy did not have a gun. I just shut up. And the following day, on the 6th, I was in my office. I saw his boss coming to my office telling me that, listen, Mr. Rusesabagina, that guy did not have a gun. It was a toy. I told him that, sir, it was a toy because it didn't kill. It didn't kill me, but it was a gun. Then that day, I went to exile, thinking that in exile, I will be in peace. That is when I took a flight, went to Belgium with my elder children, and where I also was harassed many times, because when I arrived in Brussels, once again, because I was very familiar to people, I was speaking loudly, talking to the whole world, especially journalists. That also still remained a problem. The Rwandan government followed me, tried to kill me by all means, until a time when even the Rwandan ambassador moved from the residence of the Rwandan embassy, came to live behind my house in Brussels.
Paul, if I may pause for a minute, I think many of us know something about your background and about the terrible story of what happened, because you were threatened, you were as you've described, someone was there sent to assassinate you, and you were saved by really a maid who worked for you, and you had to flee your country and you went to Belgium, and you've had to live abroad for many years since, but you have been an outspoken critic and a follower of events in Rwanda and of the conditions of the people in Rwanda, and that has continued to bring down the attention of the president, Mr. Kagame, and his men, and you have been harassed, followed, threatened, and your life has basically been pretty wretched, living abroad even. Is that right?
Well, that's a very long question.
Hang on a second.
We're just trying to get through the story, and if you
Answer the
want,
question.
go away and read it.
It has not only followed like that, but also I was also kidnapped,
Pull him up.
and I was tortured. I was kidnapped from Dubai, taken to Kigali, where I was just I was tortured, and my head was put in a bag. Can you imagine the head put in the bag kind of tied, hands tied in the back, legs tied, and thrown in a car and taken to places which they call safe places. What do they call them? Safe places. That is where they kill people. To them, they are safe because they are the only ones who know those places where they torture and kill people. I was there for 4 days being tortured, and also you can imagine no moving, just on the ground. And at that given time, I had a military boot on my neck. You can imagine that. It is just an abattoir where I could hear many other people behind the next door. In the next door, I couldn't hear many people. It was very dark, 24 hours a day, but people making noise, calling, being tortured, calling for help. And for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and after 3 hours approximately, because I could not see the water, I couldn't see anything. I was tired, as I'm telling you. I could hear the voice now slowly just disappearing, getting lost. That is what happened in those abattoirs in Rwanda. I call them the abattoir. They call them the safe houses because they are the only ones who know those houses.
You were saying that it was like an abattoir. It was like a place for handling animals. Yeah? That's what you've said. You've said that you were kidnapped in Dubai. You were going through Dubai airport, and you were then taken. Were you willingly participating in this, or were you brought to Rwanda?
Actually, I was not really going to Rwanda. I was invited by a Rwandan agent who called himself a Burundese, who called himself a man of God, a pastor, a bishop. Then he used his lawyer in Brussels, Innocent. He used Innocent Twagiramungu, who told me he was his lawyer. Then he knew he was a Burundese, and he was a pastor, had churches. He's the one who invited me. He's the one I met in a private jet. And then in Dubai, we were supposedly flying to Bujumbura, not to Kigali. And of course, the pilot. When I met the bishop,
Mr. Rusesabagina, I'm going to have to interrupt here and explain to you that I'm terribly sorry, but because of the limits of Parliament, we have only an hour for this evidence session, and if we go into this level of detail, we're not going to be able to cover everything. Now, as Helena has said, many of us have been well briefed about your background, and we have some quite specific, focused questions we want to ask. Now, please understand, I don't wish to be rude in any way, and I don't wish to diminish the awfulness of your experiences, but because I've got to chair this meeting and we don't have very long, I need to try and focus our questions a bit more. If necessary, we can get you to write to us afterwards if there's things that you want to elaborate on. But I think Helena has some quite specific questions to ask you, and then we'll move on to Lord Murray next.
Well, let me just finish. We know from your history that you ended up being taken to Kigali, and you were held in custody in the way that you've described, and you were put on trial. Did you receive a fair trial?
I did not receive a fair trial. Not at all. There is no fair trial in Rwanda.
Were you able to choose your own lawyers?
The Rwandan government refused to give me they refused my international lawyers. And also they told me that they have 1,500 lawyers, Rwandan lawyers, who can intervene for me. When I asked the list, they gave me a list of 5.
So you were given a list from which to choose lawyers, and they had to be Rwandan. And did you consider that they would be independent of government and of any kind of pressure?
No, they were not. Nobody is independent from the government in Rwanda. Either you are with the Rwandan Patriotic Front, Kagame's political party, or you are the enemy, and the enemy in Rwanda is always killed, is to die.
Have you or any family members been targeted or persecuted in Rwanda as a result of your political views or your human rights activism?
Well, when I was in prison, my brother, my younger brother, was also was called to come to talk to the Rwandan Investigation Bureau almost every week. If you go online, you will see my sister being called to come and testify, tell them, being forced to tell them who I am. And she is a 76-year-old woman who has nothing to do with politics, who lives in that rural area.
So your sister, your brother, and all because of you and your criticism of the government's political stance.
For 2 years and 7 months that I stayed in prison, nobody from my family or a friend could visit me and see me and know how I am.
Were you given medical attention while you were in prison?
At a given time, even my own medicines I had, because I take 2 tablets every day. Even those ones were just confiscated, taken away, until a time after many months when the international community raised voices and started talking. That is when I got them.
We've heard evidence about other people being kept in solitary confinement. Were you kept in solitary confinement?
When I was kidnapped, I was, first of all, taken to the butchery. And from the butchery, I was taken to the police in a confinement for 18 days. And then from there, I was always being tortured. I was taken to the prison, living in a small room of about 2.5 meters and length, and maybe 2 meters large, without a window. I was not even able to put on the light myself. They were putting on the light from from outside. They were the ones. I was going out 1 hour a day, just 1 hour.
You got to go outside for 1 hour a day. And did they provide you with anything to sleep on? Because we've heard evidence from another witness that they had nothing to sleep on when they were being detained prior to their trial. Did you have a mattress or anything?
Yes, for me, they gave me a kind of a small bed, tiny bed, and a blanket.
And I think what you're describing there is the conditions you were kept in before your trial. After you were convicted and sent to prison, can you tell us what your conditions were like when you were in prison?
After my conviction, I just had to pull out from the trial because it was just kind of short trial. And when I pulled out, nothing changed. For the first almost 10 months, between August 27th in the night and June 12th, 2021, I was in that confinement without a window, with the cameras watching me 24 hours a day on top.
Can you tell us how you came to be freed from prison?
Well, the whole world stood up. The whole world happened to know that what I was going through was a kind of show. It was not really a trial. That is when the EU Bar Association wrote and signed a kind of a recommendation. Shall I call it a recommendation to the whole world to tell that this was a show. The U.S. Bar Association did the same thing. The UN, the Human Rights Organization, did the same thing. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, many countries, the EU also did the same thing. The Congress in the United States, the Senate, everybody just wrote resolutions and they send and they sign them until a time when even the State Department and the White House called my kidnapping a kind of it was a kind of hostage.
So you were, of course, you were helped by the EU, the United Nations, and ultimately by President Biden. But of course, you were a very well-known figure because of the film that had been made about you. Do you think if you hadn't been a well-known figure, you would have got that help? What do you think would have happened to you if you hadn't been well-known internationally? Do you think you'd still be in prison?
That is a very exciting question and very interesting. So far, I'm the only one who has been kidnapped, taken to Rwanda, and happened to get out alive so far. That prison is a hell.
You say, I'm the only one who's been kidnapped, taken to Rwanda, and who has got out alive.
That prison was hell.
Yeah.
Murray.
Right. Simon, I know you want to come in and ask a couple of questions.
Yes, certainly. Mr. Rusesabagina, we've been provided with some background information. Is it right that in December 2018, you put a video on YouTube in which you denounced Mr. Kagame's government?
Well, I always denounced Mr. Kagame. I don't remember what I said in 2018. I always denounced the torture, whatever was done by the Rwandan government. And even today, I'm doing it.
In that particular video, it's suggested that you, in that video, pledged your unreserved support to the FLN, which is the National Liberation Forces, which is the armed wing of the Movement for Democratic Change. Did you say that?
Well, I think the world misunderstood what I said. The world misunderstood what I said because in Kinyarwanda, you ask your child to do whatever he or she can to bring kind of a bucket of water. By all means, that is always very much said. And that FLN you are talking about was no more a member of our organization. We had kicked FLN out. It was no more a member of the organization.
In your experience of Rwanda today, given the legal guarantees in the Constitution, to what extent do you believe individuals can freely express dissent and protest?
Individuals can never talk. There's no freedom of speech. There is no freedom at all. That is in Rwanda, that is zero. Rwanda talks about refugees all over and every time. They talk about the Congolese refugees whom they themselves attacked the Congo. The Congolese people crossed the border and came to Rwanda. But Rwanda, you remember what happened in 2018 when the Congolese refugees, because of lack of food, they were not given enough food, then they demonstrated. 12 of them were immediately killed. I mean refugees who had no weapons, nothing. They were immediately killed.
That was in
More than
2012.
20 injured, and many of them taken to prison. So in Rwanda, there is nothing like freedom. That is zero.